Episode 11, Martin Harris loses the 116 pages, A Death in the Smith Family. Welcome back to Hidden and Distorted History of the Church, where we uncover the lesser-known truths about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or the Mormons. My goal is to reveal the authentic historical facts behind the Mormon Church. Recap. Last week, we exposed how the Church has downplayed Emma's crucial role as Joseph Smith's first scribe, effectively erasing her from the official narrative and wrongly attributing her contributions to Martin Harris. We also scrutinized Harris's gullibility, how he was misled by Joseph Smith into accepting the Book of Mormon despite Charles Anthon's dismissal, and how the timeline presented by the Church fails to align with the facts. This week, we'll delve into the controversial episode where Martin Harris was permitted to show the 116 pages of the Book of Lehi to his wife, only for them to mysteriously vanish. We'll uncover the truth behind this critical loss and its implications for the Church's narrative. Part 1, Martin begs Joseph. Martin and Joseph worked on the alleged translation until June 1828, producing 116 pages of text known as the Book of Lehi, the first part of the supposed plates. Once this section was completed, Harris requested to return to Palmyra with the plates to show his skeptical wife. Smith refused, but after Harris petitioned 3 more times, Smith reluctantly agreed to let him show the manuscript, on the condition that Harris swore an oath to reveal it to only 5 people. Once Martin Harris returned to Palmyra, he showed the 116-page manuscript to his skeptical wife, Lucy. While in their possession, the manuscript was kept locked in Lucy's dresser, removed only when Martin wished to display it to curious visitors. According to LDS historian Richard Bushman, after Martin forcibly accessed the drawer, the manuscript mysteriously disappeared. Many scholars and historians speculate that Lucy Harris may have burned the pages. With the manuscript now vanished, Lucy Harris demanded that Joseph Smith reproduce the lost 116 pages, arguing that, since the translation was inspired, it should be easily replicable. As we know, Smith failed to produce these pages, raising serious questions about the authenticity and integrity of the translation process. Joseph likely knew he couldn't reproduce the missing 116 pages. As we explored in the previous video, Emma assisted him in writing the first 2/3. If Smith attempted to recreate the text and made any errors, not only would others notice, but Emma, who had first-hand knowledge of the original content, would certainly recognize the discrepancies. In St. Volume 1, under the chapter, The Gift and Power of God, we uncover startling revelations that challenge the official narrative. The following spring, Martin Harris traveled to Harmony with some bad news. His wife had filed a complaint in court, claiming Joseph was a fraud who pretended to translate gold plates. Martin now expected a summons to testify in court. He would have to declare that Joseph had fooled him, or Lucy would charge him with deceit as well. Additionally, Lucy Mack Smith provides a troubling account. Around this time, Lucy Harris was seen with bruises and cuts. It has been suggested that Martin Harris, known for his abusive behavior, might have beaten Lucy for her role in the disappearance or destruction of the 116 pages. The fact that Lucy Mack Smith reported these injuries raises serious questions about their authenticity and Martin Harris's character. Why would she recount these details if they were not true? Fair LDS acknowledges a critical point. Despite Lucy Harris's lack of mention of the lost 116 pages, Fawn Brody, in No Man Knows My History, The Life of Joseph Smith, concludes that Harris beat his wife to force her into revealing what she had done with the missing pages. Lucy Mack Smith corroborates this troubling account, noting Harris's abusive tendencies. Lucy Harris herself attested to his violent behavior in a sworn statement. He is naturally quick in his temper, and his mad fits frequently abuse all who may dare to oppose him in his wishes. However strange it may seem, I have been a great sufferer by his unreasonable conduct. At different times while I lived with him, he has whipped, kicked, and turned me out of the house. In a desperate attempt to downplay this evidence, Fair LDS remarks, Lucy's report of abuse is the most disheartening of the affidavit. While Lucy may have exaggerated some aspects of Martin's behavior, these claims are those to take most seriously. Not only did Martin Harris become enraged with Lucy, but she had been persistently criticizing his financial investment in Joseph Smith. As the venture drained his resources with no return in sight, her frustration grew. She eventually filed a case against Smith for disorderly conduct, a charge that would be leveled against him twice more by 1830. In her interview with E.D. Howe, Lucy Harris recounted Martin's outburst. "What if it is a lie? If you will let me alone, I will make money out of it." Fair LDS attempts to downplay this damning statement by Lucy Harris, sourced from Dr. Philastus Hurlbut in his Hurlbut Affidavits, with a weak rebuttal. Abigail embellishes her version of what she heard by implying that Martin Harris admitted that Mormonism was a lie. Joseph Smith had a clear plan to publish the Book of Mormon for sale. There are claims that he and his family originally intended to display the golden plates in their home for a fee, allowing people to view them. This potential monetization of the Book of Mormon would become a recurring theme. It is likely that Smith was biding his time until he could produce a convincing set of plates that would pass the scrutiny of the average person. However, events in the winter of 1828 disrupted these plans, forcing him to act sooner than he had anticipated. I'll cover the attempted sale of the Book of Mormon and the introduction of Oliver Cowdery in another video. But for now, let's examine the pivotal event of 1828 that altered the Smiths' course. Part 2. The death of Alvin Smith Jr. This is quite a sad and terrible event, but one that needs to be examined as it weighs heavily upon the claims made by Joseph Smith in his first vision. The church tells us that in the winter of 1828, just before Martin Harris arrived, Emma gave birth to their first child, named Alvin Jr., after Joseph's eldest brother who had passed away several years earlier. Alvin Jr. died just a few hours after being born. There are several issues here. The church claims this happened in the winter of 1828, or February 1828. However, the gravestone for Alvin Smith Jr. has his date of birth and death as June 15, 1828, nearly 4 months after Harris arrived. I honestly do not know what reason could be used for changing the dates, as it doesn't impact any timeline issues I have been able to deduce. The second issue we have, and where the importance lies, is here. Joseph was in a fragile mental state, and who can blame him after the loss of his child? Adding to this, the loss of the 116 pages he and Martin had worked so hard to produce pushed Joseph to the verge of a breakdown. So much so that in June 1828, Joseph joined the Harmony Methodist Church. Back in Joseph's day, a minister also functioned as a counselor or psychologist, but we have one huge issue here. So Joseph joined the Methodists almost right after the death of his son. Recall earlier in this series when we discussed Smith's supposed vision of God and Jesus, known as the first vision. In this vision, he asked which of the denominations were correct, and he was told not to join any because they were all wrong and an abomination to God. This is something every Mormon knows by heart and can attest to. So why, 8 years after being told not to join any church, did Joseph join the Harmony Methodist congregation? Could it be because the widely accepted version of the first vision did not appear until 1838, 10 years later? According to Emma's 2 cousins, who were also witnesses against Joseph Smith in the Glass-Looker trial, they provide further testimony about Smith's behavior. They recount, while he, Smith, was in Harmony, Pennsylvania translating his book, he joined the Methodist Episcopal Church. He presented himself in a serious and humble manner, and the minister, not suspecting anything untoward, added his name to the class book. However, some official members, including myself, Joseph Lewis, were absent at the time. Upon learning of Smith's membership, I, along with Joshua McCune, confronted him. We told him bluntly that his character was a disgrace to the church. We informed him that he could not remain a member unless he repented, made a public confession, renounced his fraudulent and hypocritical practices, and demonstrated a genuine intention to reform and live more like a Christian. We gave him a choice, either publicly ask to have his name removed from the class book or face a disciplinary investigation. He chose the former and immediately withdrew his name. Thus, his name was on the class book for only 3 days. It was the general opinion that his sole motive for joining the church was to enhance his reputation and garner the sympathy and support of Christians, essentially using religion as a facade to further his deceitful agenda. Fair LDS offers a rather evasive response to the above statement, claiming the Lewis's account of Joseph's 3-day membership does not fit the standard procedure for how Methodists admitted or expelled members. The time frame and the nature of Joseph's brief membership suggest he was likely considered on probation or, in modern LDS terms, an investigator. The process described for his removal aligns with how probationary members were typically handled, though it appears Joseph received more immediate and severe treatment than usual. Notice that they do not outright deny the possibility that Smith may have been on probation or merely investigating the church. This acknowledgement implies that Smith was at least making an effort to attend or join a church he had previously claimed God told him not to join just 8 years earlier. The issue is significant and persistent. Smith's turn toward the Methodist faith can be traced back to his mother, Lucy Mack Smith, and his wife, Emma, both of whom were devout Methodists. This response sidesteps the core issue, Joseph Smith's attempt to join a church he had previously denounced as corrupt. The fact remains that Joseph sought membership in the Methodist Church, despite his earlier vision claiming that all such denominations were abominations. This inconsistency raises questions about his true commitment to the principles he claimed to uphold. The Lewis brothers' account is corroborated by a membership roster for the Harmony congregation, which lists Joseph Smith Jr. as a member. This aligns with what Linda K. Newell and Valine T. Avery report. Emma's uncle, Nathaniel Lewis, served as a lay minister for the local Methodist Episcopal Church. His congregation met in members' homes for Sunday services, while a circuit preacher visited Harmony on Wednesdays. In the spring or summer of 1828, Joseph approached the circuit rider, requesting that his name be added to the church's class roll. Joseph presented himself in a very serious and humble manner, and the minister complied. In the fall of 1828, a significant event unfolded in Palmyra, New York. A 22-year-old schoolteacher named Oliver Cowdery arrived in town, initially hired as the Manchester schoolmaster. Coincidentally, Cowdery began tutoring Joseph Smith Sr., and as was customary according to the LDS Church, he took up residence with the Smith family. I'll conclude this episode here, but next week we'll dive into the introduction of Oliver Cowdery. We'll explore his connection to the Smith family, his role in their bloodline, and his significance in the claimed translation of the Book of Mormon. Summary: we investigate the controversial loss of the 116 pages of the Book of Lehi and the death of Alvin Smith Jr. The disappearance of these pages raises serious doubts about Joseph Smith's translation process. Additionally, Smith's brief membership in the Harmony Methodist Church, despite his earlier vision denouncing all churches, highlights inconsistencies in his claims. We also touch on Martin Harris's legal troubles and the abusive behavior reported by Lucy Harris. Next week, we will introduce Oliver Cowdery and explore his significance to the Smith family and the translation of the Book of Mormon. Please watch for future videos, and thank you so kindly for watching. This is the Ex-Mormon Informant signing off for the day.